Status.
It's no good, Skipper. I don't know the codes.
Don't give me excuses. Give me results. Navigation. All right. Let me think. And shut him up!
I did it!
The Madagascar Penguins. I'd like to say Penguins of Madagascar, but that's a show and a movie, and I'm not talking about those much in this video, so... The Madagascar Penguins. These 4 penguins very quickly became fan favorites of the Madagascar series, and to be honest, how can you not love this wacky group of military penguins? They've gotten enough love to the point where they've gotten their own TV show and movie, as I mentioned literally a few seconds earlier, and video games have even spurred from the tuxedo creatures. Before even the show for these guys was around, they managed to steal enough of a spotlight from the main cast for their own video game, and today we'll be going over Madagascar Operation Penguin and see what antics that these 4 are up to. The game starts off at the end of the Madagascar short A Christmas Caper, where most of the penguins are trying to save Private. They've already done that at this point in the game, but after defeating a dog, they end up going through their own events of the first movie. Their objective and reason for said objective are the same as the movie, to get out of the zoo and to the wildlands of Antarctica because they feel that penguins being in a zoo is just not natural. The rest of the story is similar to The Lion King 1.5, where it goes through the events of the movie but through the eyes of other characters that people found enjoyable. The game basically shows them trying to prepare to go through with their plan by getting spoons to dig out of the zoo, getting sleep darts to put guards asleep, a slingshot to protect them from the wild, etc. The game also ends up showing a few characters that show up in the Penguins of Madagascar show 2 years later, which is pretty cool to see if you know this. Though it might be weird if you played it then, and then saw the characters later, but whatever. Overall, this approach was a pretty interesting take on the first movie, and I don't see many games do this, but then again, there aren't that many series that have characters that can carry their own spin-offs, so that could contribute to that as well. The pixel art for characters is pretty good all around. The only things that are really weird is that every character only has black dots for eyes, and that size comparisons between characters are way off. Private shouldn't be a third of the size of Melman and half the size of the rest of the cast. Environments are also pretty interesting and detailed to look at, from the enclosures of the zoo, Grand Central Station, the boat that the penguins hijacked, Madagascar, and even Antarctica. There's not a lot of voice acting aside from a few lines, but there is a good amount of text, so is the writing good? It's alright for the most part. There's some lines from the movie which works given how the game does cover some events, but there are also references to the movie with said lines in different situations, which honestly is a little forced sometimes. Also, there's a bunch of lines about Skipper hitting Private, which at first I thought was a bit much, but...
Slide, Private.
Sorry, Skipper. I don't know how the holiday snaps got in there. Oh! 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 Oh!
Yeah, I think it's kind of justified for him to be worried about that. The music is pretty good, having a mix of march music with a lot of snares, and somewhat wacky music as well, which fits well for the type of characters that this game is based around. Out of all of the penguins, you're only able to play as Private, which would seem strange, but the trend of mainly controlling one penguin is already a thing so far, so it's not like it matters much right now. That might change for the future games, but as of right now, it's just a trend of only being able to play as one of them. Anyways, Private has to go around various places defeating animals, avoiding people, and completing objectives for other characters, mostly Skipper. He gives you your assignment for every mission. Kowalski and Rico give you gadgets and explain how they work. Or, well, Kowalski explains it. Rico just salutes you on your way out. Private on his own is able to attack enemies and sneak behind people to knock them out. He can also go prone and crawl or slide along the ground, which is important for...
tobogganing.
Thank you, tobogganing missions. Here he has to slide down a snowy hill and make it to the end of the area. The last thing he can do on his own is smile and wave to avoid enemies and keep suspicion off of you from humans, because penguins are apparently the most suspicious thing on the planet. Throughout the game he gets several gadgets and upgrades. For his attack he gets the Bass Knuckles, or Weapon of Bass Destruction, which is larger and does more damage, and can also knock over rocks and tree stems. The candy canes, which are gotten out of that Christmas Caper level, are used to climb across things above you like pipes. The parachute, which has a burger on it for some reason, lets you glide in the air, and being over an air vent with this out will push you upward. The slingshot allows you to shoot fruit, but you need fruit to do so you need to stand next to fruit baskets and take aim there. Oh, and these are glorious fruit baskets, by the way. The blow straw is for sending out sleeper darts, even though it's through a bendy straw. I question this, but the first Madagascar game was a lot stranger than this one. The darts are able to temporarily put enemies to sleep if it doesn't outright kill them, and permanently puts humans to sleep. You aim them just like the slingshot, but you can use it whenever you want. Around the areas there are fizzy drinks. You can go up to them and grab them. After shaking one up, you can release it to send yourself upwards. Now, the one upgrade that Private gets is the ability to swim underwater. That really doesn't feel like it should be an upgrade, but we're just gonna ignore that. Private isn't the only playable character though. The rest of the characters have parts of some levels where they are playable. Melman has a dance by pressing buttons at the right time. Private rides on top of Marty, who can do the same things that Private can, minus the upgrades, aside from smile and wave. Instead, he has to hide inside of crates. Alex can double jump and has a roar attack, just like in the first game. And my goodness, is the range way worse. Every level has a set of medals within them, and for every 100 that you get increases to your health. Now, given the dangers that you face, if you need to regain health, a small fish gives you 1 health, while a golden fish refills all of your health, regardless of how much is missing. Private's gameplay is incredibly fun. There's a lot more stuff that he can do than I was expecting. Then again, I'm basing this off of the other 2 Game Boy Advance games that I played, so this could be an average amount for a GBA game and I just don't know it. But regardless, I'm impressed that there's so many different abilities tied to only 4 buttons, and the majority of it works efficiently. The gadgets that you get also feel like things that the Penguins would actually use in a kind of situation, especially the sleep darts and the burger parachute. The bass knuckles might be a little rarer though. The stealth is also good for the most part. There was one time where me being visible didn't make any sense, but other than that, detection worked out just fine. I do kind of wish that there were checkpoints in these though, as some of them end up being pretty long levels with no checkpoints in between, but there were also times where I was being somewhat stupid, so that's something to consider as well. There's also a good amount of exploration in levels when utilizing the parachute, bottle rockets, and swimming underwater, and the medals give incentive to go explore as it increases your health and makes the game easier. Speaking of the medals, there are some that you can only access later because you can't get all of your upgrades instantly, which gives a little bit of replay value for all of the levels, though it's not much else aside from that. The tobogganing levels are some of the most fun though, as you just blaze down hills at high speed since the momentum going downhill is really fast. I won't lie, it's a little intense doing the first level, but after that it's relatively smooth sailing. The only gameplay element that I feel should overall be better is going prone and sliding around. Outside of tobogganing is really slow because you're not able to create any momentum unless you're on a downward slope. And in regular levels, there aren't too many areas where that's even a possibility, plus given how some of these are also in stealth missions, it can end up being counterproductive to try and slide around everywhere. Even on top of ice, you're not allowed to slide for a long distance, which makes the least amount of sense. Considering that these guys are known for sliding around, I figured there would be more of an emphasis on that throughout the entire game, but it's only in 3 levels of the game where it's actually fun to use. The slingshot and blow straw for some reason works in a really strange way. In order to shoot it, you have to hold the R button, then release the R button before shooting with the B button. I don't know why you can't just hold R and press B while doing that, as it just takes longer to try and line that up, especially when you have to aim at a diagonal angle. However, for the blow straw, you'll be aiming forward almost all of the time anyway, so that's not a big problem for that. And even though for the slingshot, you're forced to stay in one place in order to use it, you'll never actually be put in danger, so you're able to take as much time as you want trying to line up the shot. It's really more of an annoyance than anything else. This game could have ended up being a huge cash out to exploit people's love for the Penguins, but it actually ended up being a really good game. It's overall creative with the gameplay and use of other material, and gives a nice Lion King 1.5 approach to things. Honestly, it feels like this game was made for those who wanted more Penguin levels alongside the single level that was in the first game, like an expansion to it specifically for the Penguins. I even somewhat brought that up in my review for that game as well, and since both of those games ended up turning out good, I can happily accept the idea that this is an expansion to the other game. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. Now, the main reason why I'm actually doing this video and not my Undernight review, which is what I said I wanted to do first, is mainly because Undernight is just taking longer than I expected it to, because that review is quite a long one and getting all the footage for it is gonna take a bit of time. But to those of you who are anticipating it, don't worry, it's still happening, it's just gonna be delayed by a little bit, and I'll do my best to have it out to you guys next week. But as for the Madagascar games, as of the time that I'm recording this, my first Madagascar game review almost has 1,000 views, which is honestly amazing. There's not too many videos that end up getting close to that number, especially within a few months. So thank you guys for that. And maybe having this video will help push that video into 1,000 views, but who knows. But in terms of the next Madagascar game that I would do, it would be Escape to Africa, and I'm hoping that I can get a PS3 version somewhere. That way I can review that, but I don't know when I would do that. I would have to find the time at some point in order to do it. But regardless, in case you have not already, make sure you go down into the description below, because that's where all of my social medias are located. Like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are all ways of you guys being updated on whenever I'm going to be uploading another video or what video I'm going to be doing next. So if you want to keep up to date on that, make sure you go to those. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until next video, take care.